Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm working on a switch panel that's going to mount up to the roll cage for the main switches to operate the car, mostly at the drag strip, but the normal stuff. There's going to be an e-stop switch, the ignition switch, the start button to start the motor. I'm also going to put my power window switches up there, and fuel pump and water pump switches are going to go on that panel. So I'm designing something that I think is going to work, but I'm not sure yet. So I'll turn you around here and kind of show you what I'm thinking. So I'm going to mount it up in this area, and I just got a bit of cardboard here to kind of give me an idea. Obviously it won't be curved, it'll be a flat, straight. I'm going to make it, I think, out of a piece of rectangular aluminum tubing. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking, and I've got to have room for the switches that go in it. They're just regular, Carling style sealed switches, nothing crazy or fancy. And then the e-stop switch I got from Devin at HCR. It's a really nice, positive e-stop switch. So if something really goes wrong, I can just reach up, smack that switch, and it has the same effect as the switch on the rear bumper. It'll shut the entire car off. It'll disconnect the battery from the entire car. So this is a, just in case, shit happens kind of a switch. But I think it's important to have something like that, not just on the bumper, but within my reach as well. So, so that's going to be the plan. So I'm going to go over to the mill, and I'm going to start milling out the backside of a rectangular piece of tubing. And the idea is, and again, I don't know for sure that this is all going to work yet, but the idea is I'm going to mill out the back of the tubing so that the roll bar, fits over top of the roll bar, and then I can attach it to the roll cage. I can just drill holes in here, put some nutserts in, and I can attach it to the roll cage. And then I'll probably make another reinforcing bracket for here that attaches up to this piece of sheet metal as well. That'll just be kind of a little L bracket off the side, just to make it solid and kind of robust. So that's kind of the plan. Again, I'm not sure this is going to work, but it's what I'm going to try, and you never know till you try, right? So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go over and start cutting in the mill, and I'm not going to bore you to tears watching a mill go back and forth, but I'll kind of show you maybe once I get the main cut in the back of it done. I'll take a shot of that, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about, and then I'll bring you along kind of as we go, but I'm going to try not to bore anybody to tears here. Okay, well, this is what I'm thinking about making my switch panel out of. It's just a piece of 3 by 1.5 extruded aluminum, and I'm basically just gonna cut a slot out of the back of it so that it fits kind of over the roll cage. So I'm going to cut it kind of close to one side, and then take off what I need on the other side. And the idea will be so that this will slide back, so the roll bar will actually kind of go inside of it somewhat, maybe all the way, I don't know yet, we'll see. I got to leave room for switches and stuff inside, so I got to be careful about that. And then these are the switches, so they take up a fair amount of space. So this is probably going to sit in there on an angle, and I can't get too far back in there because I won't have room for the roll bar to, so the roll bar can only really go back in there about yay far. So I'll figure it out. But anyway, that's kind of the plan. So I'm going to move over to the mill and mill a chunk out of that. And I'll show you what that looks like when I get it done. Okay, well, there it is. I've milled a nice big slot out of the back of that piece, and the roll bar fits in there now, no problem. So I'm going to get ready to take this over to the car and kind of mock it up in place and just kind of see, what I'm going to do for how I'm going to mount it and that sort of stuff, and the space for the switches. And then once I have that kind of figured out, then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to mill out the holes for all the switches. So I'll bring you back when I get over to the car. So that's kind of what I had in mind, something of that nature. Kind of marked out where the switches go. The E-stop's going to go right in the center because it takes up a fair bit of depth and I need clearance behind it. And then I don't know if I'm going to mount it, like I said, with nutserts through the bottom of it, or I haven't really figured out exactly how I'm going to mount it yet. And I also have to take into consideration the depth of the switches, because I can't mount it too far back on the roll bar or I won't be able to get the switch in it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the holes in here and figure out what kind of depth I've got, and then from there I'll figure out how I'm going to mount it. So here we are over on the mill. Just show you kind of an interim picture. What I'm doing is I'm using a 1/2 inch end mill to kind of hog out the most of it, and then I'm going to go in with a small diameter, like a 1/16 end mill, and clean out the corners and just trim everything up and make it fit. So I cut a 2x4 so that it fits in here. It takes some of the vibration and stuff out of the machine. I can clamp it in really nice and tight, so I cut that to fit really snugly. I actually had to drive it in with a hammer. And so it takes some of the vibration and nonsense out of the machine. So I'm just going to keep on working on these 6 holes, and I'll bring you back when we get the final product and get it ready to take it out of the mill. I don't think you guys want to watch this getting milled, so around and around in circles with a mill, that gets old quick. So I'll bring you back when we get something worth looking at. Well, it's another day in the shop, and I got this piece cut out, and I've got it so that I can snap the switches into it. Although I'm not going to snap the switches into it just yet, because I just have to take them out. I think this is going to get painted or something, but I just making sure that I got the holes square enough and everything fits. So what I got to do now is I've got to measure the distance from the back of the switch to where the wires are going to attach, and then make sure, well, maybe I'll lay it down this way, make sure that I've got enough depth. I've got to kind of figure out, when this switch is all the way inserted, how far back here does it come, and then I've got to mock that up in the car and figure out a way that I'm going to mount this whole thing to the roll cage. So I think what I'm going to do is, rather than snap these switches in and out and mess around with that, I think what I'll do is just build myself a little block that fits in here, and it'll take up the space that the switch is going to take up, and I can kind of use that as a mock-up. So I'm going to build that, and then we're going to go over to the car and see how we're going to mount it. So it occurred to me while I was measuring this that maybe some of you don't know some of the things you can do with a regular set of calipers, whether they're manual like this or digital. They all work the same. So I was measuring the distance from this surface, to back here, kind of thing. And so a lot of people would just kind of do something like this and go, okay, well, I think that's about 200, we'll call it right there, we'll call it 250 thousandths, or 1 inch 500 thousandths, call it 1.5 inches. The other way you can do it, though, and a lot of people don't know about this function, you can use this surface of the caliper and this surface of the caliper to measure the depth of things. Like, so for example, if I wanted to just measure the body of this switch, I can put my caliper on here like this, and I can go down here to the body. And so that's the body of the caliper. So you use this surface and this surface when you're, butting up against something like that, rather than, trying to do it this way and eyeball it or whatever. And I'll bring it a little closer to the camera. So rather than doing it this way or trying to guesstimate, this way, all you do is put this surface of the caliper up against it, run that one up against it, and you've got your measurement. In this case, it's 1.37, 1 inch and 37 thousandths. So that's not the measurement I need. I need actually to these terminals, but you get the idea. I just wanted to point out that a lot of people don't use this surface of the caliper, and you really could. So I'm going to go back to making my spacing block, which I think is going to be about, probably about 1.5 inches. Yeah, that's about 1.5 inches. I'm not using crimp-on terminals here. These are going to be soldered on, so there won't be any really additional length to these other than maybe the diameter of the cable. But so anyway, I figured I'd show you that little trick on the calipers there, because not too many people seem to know about that. Okay, I thought I'd just show you, I'm making the mounts that are going to go on the roll bar, and I'm making them out of high density plastic instead of aluminum. I got tired of working in aluminum, so I'm going to try some of this plastic. So milling it down to size right now. So we'll measure that thickness. The thickness isn't super critical, but I just wanted them really nice and even. and kind of just make them look good. So this thickness is probably going to be close enough, but I'll measure it. I might make one more pass just to really smooth it out, go slow, and just make one more thin cut across the top, just a scratch cut, but it's probably good enough just the way it is. So these are going to fit inside the ends of the aluminum tubing that we've been working on, and I'll show you the plan once I get it over to the bench, but should be pretty straightforward. I think pretty easy to make, and making them out of this stuff is it's kind of fun. I don't get to work with plastics a whole bunch, so it's kind of fun to do it when you can. So anyway, I'll just keep going, and I'll bring you back as things progress. So I've made the end panels, and they fit inside the aluminum piece, and you can kind of get the idea how that's going to mount. So now I'm going to figure out where the holes go in it for the roll bar to go through, and then once I have kind of that sort of thing figured out, I'll put some shape on this. Whoops, I'm sorry. So once I have that sort of thing figured out, I'll put some shape on this, and what I'll probably do is make this split right here, and so it'll be a clamp, and I'll mill a flat in here and there'll be a screw that goes through into this. Same thing on this side. I'll just give it a little bit of shape, and yeah, then the clamps for that should be done. So we'll see how that all goes, but coming along pretty good. Everything fits nice, so pretty happy with the way that turned out. Well, as you can see, I've sort of completed the mock-up of this, and it works. This is the diameter of the roll bar. I've got a nice little rubber gasket in there, and after spending pretty much a whole day building this, I've decided I can't use it. And the reason is I am not satisfied with the amount of bite that these screws have in here and the security of it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remanufacture this clamp piece that I made out of UHMW. I'm going to make this out of a piece of 7/16 inch thick aluminum, and then I'll have plenty of clamping force, and I won't have to worry about the threads and all that stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have any 7/16 inch thick aluminum here, and I don't have enough 1/2 inch that I could mill it down. So I'm waiting on some stuff from McMaster to show up, and I'm basically gonna, I won't say I've wasted the day, because I've proven the design works. I've actually mounted this in the car, and the design works. So I'm happy about that. The only thing that I'm not happy about is I gotta basically make it over again. Thankfully, it's not really that hard to make, so I'm not losing any sleep over it, but it is what it is, and this is all part of learning as we go, and all of that good stuff. So I think it's going to be strong and secure once I get it in there and get it fit. I think it's going to be just fine, but yeah, I think plastic was the wrong choice. I expected to get more strength out of the screw threads than I was able to do. So it is what it is. Maybe I'm expecting you know, maybe I'm worried too much about it. Like, I can't, you know, break this apart by pulling on it right now. The screws are strong enough for that, but I'm just worried about, you know, vibration in the race car, and if the car ever rolls and something comes loose, and it's just, I don't want to worry about it. So I'm going to make it out of aluminum like I should have done in the first place, and that's that. So we're back at it. I got my aluminum stock in, some 7/16 aluminum from McMaster. It's got kind of a rough finish on it, rougher than I expected. So I think what I'm going to do is just put it in the mill and just do a really light face cut on it, just to kind of clean it up and take the grooves and stuff out of it and make it look a little more finished. Make sure the edges are square and true and stuff like that. So, and then we're gonna start making the replacement for this piece. And because I have more material to work with now, let me just show you what I'm thinking. What I had before was kind of limited by the size of the material that I had to work with. Well, now that I have a bigger piece of material to work with, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hole in the aluminum so that it sits farther down here like this, and that will raise this piece up in the car. It'll make the switch panel sit higher in the car, and it'll give me more clearance for all of the electrical connections and stuff in behind it. So I think that's going to be the plan. But I'm going to get these cleaned up in the mill, and then we'll put some Dykem on them and then do a layout, and then we'll start milling those pieces. So this is what I'm going to use. I just regular, you know, shell mill kind of a thing, and I'm just going to just barely graze the surface of it. We've got the piece mounted in the vise sitting up there on parallels, and everything's been tapped in and it's secured. So we're just going to mill that off, and we'll see how it goes from there. So we've got the pieces of aluminum out of the mill, and I've squared them up, made them nice and square. When you buy raw material, you know, these are sold as 6 inches square, but they're not really square. In fact, one of them was probably 100 thousandths or 120 thousandths out of square. So, but I've squared them up, so now I could put them in the vise in any orientation we might need. I'm going to clean them up with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and I'm going to take them outside and shoot them with some blue Dykem so we can do the layout on them. And once we get that done, we can move over to the bandsaw, cut them down to size, and then we'll move to the mill, and we'll basically, you know, mimic something like that, only moving the hole for the roll bar to a little bit different location. So that's the plan. Next up, we're going to put Dykem on them. Oh, this is the stuff I like to use for doing layout and stuff. A lot of guys just use like a black Jiffy marker or blue or whatever, but I find that when you use any kind of lubrication in the mill, that stuff just, you know, comes off really quickly, whereas if I use Dykem, the blue doesn't come off, you know, if it gets a little WD-40 or something on it. So we're just going to shoot these blue and let them dry. I love the smell of this stuff. I don't know what it is, but me and Tom Lipton, I think, are, you know, just love the smell of Dykem. And you see how that kind of got some orange peel in it. That doesn't matter for what we're doing, but I either didn't get all the WD-40 off with the alcohol, or I'm not exactly sure what else caused it, but there was something on there that this Dykem didn't like. But you know, for what we're doing, just layout lines and stuff, it doesn't matter. It'll be just fine. You can see it's pretty orange peeled. So anyway, yeah, we'll let that dry, and we'll come back. You know, I might just spray a little bit on the edges as well. Man, I suck trying to fill them and spray. Sorry about that. There. Now if I need to put a mark on an edge or something, it'll be easy to see.
1 hour later.
Okay, well, there's the first piece of aluminum fit. Fits pretty nice. And now I just got to figure out the rest of the shape. I think I want to put the rollbar tube right around here. So I need to kind of figure out the rest of the shape that this needs to be. I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't have too much hanging down under here. So what I think I might do is just kind of do something like this. And then this will get split in half and the clamp will go here. And that should be plenty of strength if I just come down off of here, something like that. I'll do it in an arc or something. Anyway, that's the first one cut. Took me about, I'd say an hour. I roughed it out on the bandsaw, and then I took it over to the mill, and I ran a little tiny mill through there. I'll show you what I've got in the vise over here. So this is the setup I used to mill those grooves, and it worked pretty good. You can see the tiny little fine chips and stuff. So I'm gonna finish making this one to final size, and then I'll be able to just duplicate it for the one on the other side. Well, there it is. We got them done, and the tubing fits in them nice. I've got the bolts are all in, threaded, tightened down. I just got to clean them up, give them a final polish. It's probably going to get painted anyway, but you can kind of see it clamps the tube in really nicely. I think the next, I know the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put one 832 countersunk screw in here in each side. These will just go down there like that, and that'll lock these panels in solid. And I mean, I could weld them in, but I'd rather not if I ever need to change something or do whatever. So I'm just going to drill and then tap 4 holes. That'll be done. And then I can finish the cosmetics of it. And yeah, we can move on to putting the switches in and, getting some of the wiring done. So it's been a bit of a project. It took me longer than I thought. I've got 2 full days into making this, but it is what it is, and no one has one exactly like mine, which is kind of cool. And I'm happy with the way it turned out. I moved. You might notice I moved the tubing so that it is not in the center anymore. When I made the plastic mounts, and there was one laying around here, I don't know where it went, but when I made the plastic mounts, they had the tubing. Here's one. They had the tubing basically more down lower, and this is actually even lower than that. So the tubing was kind of down here like that, and the tubing was kind of in the way of the back of the switches and interference and stuff. So now I moved it up a little bit, and this will actually mount in the car like this. So this is going to be the top, and so it puts it right up. Sorry about the camera work. It puts it right up close to the ceiling here, and above the roll bar, and it's going to look good. It's going to work good. It's going to probably get mounted on an angle about like that, so the switch faces will be pointing down at me a little bit. But anyway, 4 more screws, and this thing's basically built. Well, there it is, mounted in the car. Turned out pretty good. It fits up nice and tight to the roof. It doesn't really come down lower than the roll bar, which is kind of nice. And sorry, I'll show you what the ends look like. So just clamps in there like that. Fits nice and snug. And I'll put the E-stop switch in the middle of it, and we should be good to go. This will be the start button. This will be fuel pump. This will be, this will be ignition. This will be fuel pump. This will be water pump. And then these are power windows. So there it is. Now all I got to do is everything else, just the wiring and stuff. But it's in there. It's up out of the way. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It fits nice, and it was like everything else, a bit of a project, but we got her done, and I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah, there it is. So, as always, thanks very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to hear from you if you have a better way to do things or questions, whatever. feel free. It'd be great. So again, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.